Okay, let me first thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessor and predecessors for this opportunity to talk about this topic. I mean, it's not exactly, it won't be a definitive explanation of or how to explain Dao, because there's no one way to, if you're looking for one single way, easy way to talk about Dao, there's no such thing, okay? So, because it all depends on who you're talking to, right? What their background is, what their belief is, right? So that all depends. So there's no, I can't really give one way. So I'm just give some background kind of here. Let's see. Basically, what we need to do first when we're talking to someone about the Dao is to understand their background. We can't really, a lot of times we talk, well, actually, first of all, we actually tend not to even do this introduction to Dao here. It's like people would bring them in and they receive the Dao. But we're really, technically, we're supposed to explain to them a little bit, introduce what Dao is to them. Because a lot of people, they come in, it's like, oh, this is Dao, well, what kind of religion is this, right? Because that's their concept of, that's all they know. It's religion is what they're familiar with. So, so we have to kind of explain that Dao is not religion. It's a little bit different. Okay, it's different. But in order to do that, there are a lot of things, some details that, if we understand about their background, what their beliefs are, what, if they're atheist or they might believe in a certain particular religion, then we might say things a little bit differently, or use the appropriate scriptures to talk to them about, that relate to their religion. So that's very important. And then, of course, you also have to have the right attitude and be respectful. So a lot of times we talk and then we don't listen. So we have to listen to what they have to say. And it's good to ask questions, too. Ask them questions, find out more about them and what their ideas or their thoughts or their beliefs are, right? So we have to be respectful, and we can't say, oh, this is the right way, this is the only way. And so, that kind of, we can't put them down or put down their beliefs, right? So, we have to be respectful. So for me, I try to always listen to what they have to say. So once we, that's at least showing some respect, right? They want to share something, they want to express their views, then we should listen. It's not all one way. Okay, so then that way at least there's a respect, mutual respect, and then we can try to talk, and then that way we also learn a little bit more about what what they believe in. Then we can kind of talk to them about that. Okay, so we also need to have some confidence too, self-confidence. And when we're talking to someone, they might ask a question, and we don't know the answer. We shouldn't say, oh, I don't know. And then, they might start asking a line of questions that kind of gives us doubt about, what this Dao is and all that. We should still be confident. And then let's say that, okay, maybe we don't know, but someone else might know, or a transmitter, because Dao, when we talk about Dao, it's really, we should let them ask questions and let them clear up any questions or doubts in their mind about, what they're getting to, what this really is, right? Ultimately, that's what it is. It's not dogma. Say, this is it. You have to believe this, or you have to believe it. So that's the way the religions worked in the past, right? Where they kind of forced on people, right? And that's why all these religious conflicts and all that, because it was kind of forced on people. So first of all, we can't force anyone, right? So we have to. So again, if anyone is not interested or they not willing to accept, that's fine. Just let it go. But we shouldn't try not to get into some kind of argument, big debate. Actually, that happened once. I wasn't trying to, trying to get the person to receive Dao. They actually came here. They're those Christian, whatever, they go around, right? So they came up here and, talking to me, and, it kind of got into a debate, actually. Sometimes it was heated debate. But, I wasn't trying to convert him, but he was trying to convert, trying to convince me that, just got to believe in God, believe in Jesus, right? But anyways, got into a little debate. But anyways, so we have to be able to let go and, agree to disagree sometimes, right? But don't get into a situation where we're definitely, no matter what, we're trying to convince them. Then you might kind of leave a bad impression. So we shouldn't do that. I mean, Dao should be kind of going with the flow, going with the affinity, really. If they don't have that affinity, then there's nothing you can do to change their mind. Right, that will work. So that's important. That's why the third one says affinity is more important than words, right? If they have that affinity, this affinity is from past lives, okay? That it's kind of like this foundation, or it's kind of deep within them, and they may not be able to explain that kind of affinity, but it's there. When it's there, you may just say, "Oh, are you willing to come to receive the Dao blessing?" And they say, "Yeah." So that's very easy. They already have that affinity, and we don't have to explain very much. Of course, we still explain later on, what it all is, but we don't need to convince them. But other times, their affinity, affinity is not like you either have it or you don't. It's kind of a whole spectrum, right? Whole range. And so we have to, deal with, whole range. So some people, maybe they don't have much affinity, and it's very difficult, right? Then you have to use, all sorts of things. It's our attitude, our demeanor, the words that we use, how we talk about it. Then that becomes a lot more important. Okay, but again, if they really don't have the affinity, then sometimes it's impossible to really convince them, right? So then we just there's no need to go any further. We don't want to make things worse. Okay, so we want to leave a good impression about the Tao. We can say let it go, but let it go kind of like in a good way, saying you can say, you're welcome to come listen to the classes, learn a little bit more on your, kind of on their own pace, so to speak. And that's the best way. I know sometimes it's difficult here. There's a lot of pressure to have the person receive the Tao. But it shouldn't be like that. Okay, so it's really kind of go with the affinity, the flow. Okay. So then we have to talk about, what is Dao, okay? Because again, they have this concept of religion and this belief, this faith in God or some divine power. Then we have to explain, how is this Dao different, or how does it relate to their religious experience, if they're religious? I mean, if they're atheist or they don't believe in all that, then it's a little bit different, okay, the way you might talk about it. You might kind of take a more, I wouldn't say exactly scientific, but a more logical approach, using logical arguments to try to talk to them. Whereas if they're religious, they believe, they have faith, then you can kind of use more of the religious aspects when talking to them. And then we get into why we should receive the Tao. Okay, so then we talk about the benefits, things like that. Again, they'll probably they may have some questions and doubts in their mind. So we always, try to ask them, do you have any questions, or do you, is there anything that, you don't understand, right? So let them express that, let them clear the mind. Because if they have any doubts or in their mind, right, and then they say, they kind of agree, they agree, they're willing to receive the Tao, but if there are any lingering doubts in their mind, they're going through the ceremony and they can't really be sincere about it, right? Because there's these doubts in their mind. So hopefully we want to clear those up first so that they can be sincere when they're actually receiving the Tao blessing. Okay, so that's very important. All right. Okay, so in receiving the Tao or having something, basically, people have to understand what's true and what is false, okay? Because, all our life experience is about yeah, all the material things in life, okay, our relationships to people, to things, to everything, okay, that basically things that form. And so, but what is it? I mean, even religion is talking about, kind of the afterlife, okay, not really about this life, our current life. It's more about what comes after, okay. So religion kind of it talks about that too. And then so really in the Tao, that's really what's more important, right? So, what is more eternal, right? So the things that we can pursue and gain in this life are all temporary, right? In the end, no one has ever taken, their wealth with them when they die. Now, again, if we're talking to people who are atheists or have no belief in the afterlife, what comes after, then it's very difficult to talk about some of these things because, they don't believe it. And so you can't really use that argument, right? Say, oh, that we have a continuation that's not in this physical life. But assuming that they believe in some kind of afterlife, they believe in in a supreme being, all that, then we can talk to them about that, right? So, of course, in religions they tend to think that maybe there's a permanent or eternal soul, right? That's the one that goes from life to life. I mean, in a very simple way, you can say that's true, okay? But it's not exactly right, okay? Because they don't know about the Buddha nature, they don't know about that true nature, that essence that we have, okay? So it's really the essence that's eternal, because the soul also really can change too, right? Because that's the one that will suffer, that's the one that accumulates all the karma, etc. Okay, so that's subject to change, and our temperament, things like that, are all kind of part of that. So what we're really looking for is something beyond this life, beyond all the temporary stuff. Anything, okay? So what is eternal and everlasting? That's true. Okay, that's the only thing that's true. And the only thing that's true really is that Buddha nature, that true nature, that essence, or that Dao that we're talking about, the Dao. Okay, so that's what we're seeking. Really, that's what we should be seeking. Okay. Besides, of course, we have to make a living. We have to, raise a family, etc. All these things, these material things, we have to do. Yeah. It's just that we take the middle path, right? Don't go to extremes, right? We just, whatever is good enough, we pursue that to support ourselves and our families. But we don't need to go to extreme. Oh, I definitely need to, become a millionaire or whatever. Okay. We don't have to go we shouldn't go that far, because once we do go down that path, then it's like we spend all our time and effort and all our energy in that area. Then, in the end, maybe we lose our health, right? Because we work too hard, trying to make money. In the end, we have nothing to show for it when we die, really. I mean, yes, we may have some kind of reputation in this world, but it's not really a lasting reputation. If you look at history, human history, right, for tens of thousands of years, right, human history, well, of course, in recorded history, it's only, maybe about 5,000 years, okay? The people that we remember or that we revere, respect over those many thousands of years are those who've actually, they've taken the path of seeking the truth, right? The Buddha, right? All these saints and sages, right? We don't remember the people who was the wealthiest or most powerful person during certain time, right? We don't really revere them or respect them or even remember them, right? So that's not important, really. It's if they have virtues, right? That is more important. So that's more lasting. So that's a real, truly lasting reputation. So that's kind of the thing that if we want to seek something lasting, make our mark on this world, on the people, then that's the type of, that's what we should be pursuing. Okay. So, So this is just realize that nothing we can take with us. The only thing we can take with us is basically our karma. Okay. The karma will still stay with us. Our merits and our virtues. Those are the things that are you can say that's part of us. Okay, so that will stay with us. And so that's why we should kind of be focusing on that, the more eternal thing. Okay, because who knows? Every life is different, right? Depending on what we do in this life, that will determine our next life. What's happening today in our lives today is the result of previous lives, what we've done. All right, so we can change that. That's changeable, and it's through the karma and our merits and virtues. Okay, so that's kind of a one thing that people need to understand. We have to kind of let people understand. Oh, it's not. Life isn't just about pursuing these material things, pursuing comfort and happiness, enjoyment. It's something greater than that. Okay. All right. So now, okay. So then let's talk about Dao and religion. Okay. So basically, Dao is beyond religion. It's what's the relationship between Dao? So this is kind of examples of relationship, how we want to describe Dao in relation to religion. The analogy, use an analogy. Okay. So you can say Dao is truth. It's the ultimate truth, the absolute truth, the universal truth. Whereas religion is a description or a derivative of that truth. Okay, so because sometimes this truth can be abstract. Okay, it's actually beyond words, beyond our conception. Really, it can be. Okay, but religion, because it's hard to how do we talk about something that's indescribable? So religion tries to describe it, tries to explain it, tries to explain that truth. And so we're using words. Words are very limiting, depending on the culture, right? Different cultures, every language, they have their differences and limitations, right? Some languages don't have certain concepts, and so it's kind of hard to explain in certain ways, right?
Yeah, you can generalize it this way, like the Dao, or when we're talking about at the highest level, like the Dao, the most comprehensive level, you can say it's the essence.
Yeah.
It's the source essence. You can say it's the true body. Okay, and religion is just manifestations of that. You can look at it that way. Okay, but then we got to be careful because later on religion becomes interpretations of that essence. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, I mean, you can say actually in the various religious traditions, the Tao was there. The essence was there. Okay.
Yeah, but it can't be spoken.
Right,
That's
but
the
it couldn't be
problem.
spoken. That's the problem.
Can't be written down.
So
It's
all the
not.
scriptures are just trying to point at it, but
Yeah.
they can't
Point us
really.
to that direction.
Yeah, in that direction.
That
So
source.
so depending on how you interpret it,
Right.
then you could be
Right.
kind of mistaken, or you can be on the wrong. I mean, we can just be looking at the forms rather than the essence. Okay, so it's like the well-known where the Buddha is pointing at the moon, the full moon, right, and pointing us in that direction, saying that is the truth over there. That is the truth. But then we're looking at the finger, right? So that's like all the scriptures, the teachings. So it's pointing us at the truth, but we're taking the teachings as if they are the truth themselves.
Right.
Okay, so we mistake the forms or the manifestations or the derivations or the description as the truth, but it's not really the truth. Okay.
So that's an example would be Bodhidharma and Sen Guang, right? That
Yeah.
story.
Right.
When Sen Guang, who's the future second patriarch,
Yeah.
future
Yeah.
second patriarch, he was teaching the Diamond Sutra. Was that the Diamond Sutra? I think he was using the Diamond Sutra. So he says, "This is the truth. The Dharma. That's the essence." And then Bodhidharma says, "Well, you guys heard the story, right? Well, here, give me a paper. I draw a bun. So is it? So
Can you
can
eat that?
you eat a bun? Of course not. So that's
Right.
the idea, the
Right.
same idea. And so same thing. You can apply that. Then that becomes a religion.
Right.
See, so when San Guang or Hui Ke, right? He was holding the teaching the Diamond Sutra as if though that's the absolute truth.
Right.
Just like Christians.
Yeah.
Oh, the Bible's the absolute
Right.
truth. Well, I mean, come on. I mean, before the Bible was written down, well, where's the absolute
Right.
truth? So same idea.
Yeah.
Right? Same notion.
Yeah. So just like Dr. Kai said, right, the truth is not in the words, because again, the words, there was a beginning when they were first written down, right? So before they were written down, the truth still existed.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so when a time comes when all these scriptures are gone, the truth is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not in the words themselves. Okay, they're just trying to describe it or point to that truth. Okay, because again, the truth is beyond words. right? So now, so we can use kind of like analogies, like if we look in the universe, look in this physical realm, what is the thing that most closely resembles the Tao, or yeah, you can say can represent the Tao, right? It's water, really. Water. Why water? Because, well, water has many qualities. One is that it's essential to life. Okay, so it's essential for our life, right? So you can, just like Tao is essential to everything. Okay, it's the essence of life. Okay, so water is the same thing. It's like the essence. And but so then the relation, how religion relates to that, the religion is just added flavors to the water. Okay, just adding, like, you have orange juice, but orange juice, it's still based on water, right? You have water plus you have the orange whatever flavor in there, okay, or whatever it is, coffee, tea, anything, right? You still need water, right? Water is the basis. So that's kind of the fundamental relationship between Tao and religion, right? So Tao is like that essence, that water that you always need, and then everything else is just added to it, right? So if you take away all that flavoring, then you're left with water again. Okay, so you're left with the essence. So again, in religions, unfortunately, because of interpretations or, things that they've kind of lost or gotten away from that truth, then people are focused on that flavor as opposed to the essence, the water itself, the H2O, okay? The other thing is, Tao is unique and unchanging, right? And there are many religions, though, okay? So there's only one Tao. Again, water is the same thing, right? There's H2O. That's universal.
Well, it's like you have solid,
Yeah,
ice.
right. You can have different forms of
You
it,
have
right?
liquid, and then you have gas.
Right, solid, liquid, and
it doesn't
gas,
matter.
right.
But it's still all water.
Yeah, but
The
it's all
essence
water,
is the same,
right.
different form.
Right. The essence doesn't change, okay? And so Tao is also the source, and religions are outflows. So you can kind of look at it that way too. So the source, just like you look at the source of a river, where's that water coming from, right? It comes from maybe it comes from a spring somewhere, or it's the melting glaciers. Okay, that's the source of the ultimately when it flows thousands of miles away, it's a river. Okay, it goes back to the ocean. Okay, so we want to go back to the source. We don't want to be like one of the tributaries or the rivers, which is kind of far away from that origin. Okay. So again, all another way, we talk about it is like the branches of a tree and the root. Okay, right. Again, you have the roots and you have many branches. Okay, same thing. So that's why anytime we have forms. So going back to the false and the true, right? There is only one truth, but there are many false forms derived from that truth. Okay, so again, that's that same relationship. There's only one truth, one Tao, but there are many religions. Okay, because there's just too many ways to talk about it, to describe it. Okay, and they're not perfect. Okay, that's another thing. It's that the religious, the teachings are not perfect. They are not a perfect description or explanation of that truth, right? So ultimately, I'll get to that later. That the Tao, to prove that the Tao, the ultimate truth, it has to be experienced personally.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not through these teachings, all right? Okay, so Tao is the essence, right? Religion is the form and function of it. Okay, so is one of the forms and functions. Basically, how we talk about it, how we practice it. Okay, those are the things that, the Tao itself does not. There's no real set practice, let's say, but there are principles. Okay, there are principles that derive from the Tao, from that ultimate truth. For example, for human beings, that would be what we call virtues. Okay, those basic virtues that we have, and so those are kind of like, if we follow our conscience, we follow our true nature, then we would naturally. Those are the things that we would do. Okay, how we would practice it. Of course, all the other things that we do, there's rules and regulations, precepts. Those are just to help us. So they are different precepts in different religions, but a lot of them are common. Okay, but they try to get us to basically purify ourselves, to clear our mind, to not let us create more karma. Right? Those are the things that essentially trying to get rid of those obstacles for us to truly realize what that truth is. Okay, so those are expedient means, right, to try to help us to achieve that understanding of the truth. Okay, so we shouldn't get stuck on any particular practice or things like that. Another way is Dao is the certification. Okay, so religion is like the education. Okay, so in the past, at least in the past, right, how people can receive that Dao is essentially they already learned they learned about it. I mean, they learned about this truth. They're seeking the truth, and based on their understanding, if they truly understand, in other words, they're kind of enlightened.
Yeah.
They receive a certification from an enlightened master. Okay, so that's essentially that's when they can receive the Dao. Okay, so in this case, it's like a certification, but it's like after pursuing the truth and many difficult practices, etc., to get there. Today, of course, is different. I mean, we don't have, first of all, we don't have the wisdom that people in ancient times had. Okay, we've been in this world cycling too many times. We're pursuing all the material things. That's right. We are so attached to material things, the forms, that we're too far removed from that truth, from that essence, that we're not able to do that. So during this time, because again, a lot of things have to do with this natural cycle, timing, that we are very fortunate actually to be living in this time where we can actually receive, quote unquote, receive that certification first, okay, and then learn how to cultivate, okay, how to then realize that true nature, that truth, okay. So ultimately, Tao is to become one with that true nature, or the Buddha nature, and religion kind of worships the Buddha. Okay, so again, this is showing that religion tends to be focused on the external, some external, whether it's God or some divine being, Jesus or Buddha, okay, that they believe that, that person, only that person can save me or help me. Whereas really, what they were teaching is that we can save ourselves, right? We have to recognize that we are all divine, that we all have the Buddha within us. Okay, so that, so once we can do that, because as long as there is this external reliance, that is subject to change, subject to conditions. Okay, when the conditions change, yeah, then we would, that might change our faith. So ultimately, the faith is, religion's faith is on this external thing, but its faith on the internal is what's ultimate. So we need to become one with that divinity, that Buddha within ourselves. Okay, we have to first accept the fact that we are Buddhas, or we are future Buddhas, that we can achieve, right? If we look at the history, right? If we look at Buddha, he was an ordinary person, right? In fact, and he actually, he was, you can say he's extraordinary in the sense that, he was born into wealth, royalty, right? But he gave that all up, right? Why did he give that up? He was pursuing a greater question, which is, what's the meaning of life? Why is there, birth, old age, sickness, and death? Why? And he just felt like, it becomes meaningless if that's a constant cycle of that, right? Of that dukkha, that suffering. So he was looking for an answer, that there's something greater, that we need to go beyond that, okay? Or Jesus, even though, they might have had some extraordinary circumstances around their birth, but they're still human, okay? And they all become enlightened. So that's saying that we're all the same. We all come from the same source, same origin, and so we can also achieve the same. It's just that whether we are willing to accept that, and once we're willing to accept that, then we have to we really have to open up. Or, sometimes we're just so narrow-minded, right? We just believe, this is what we were taught, and this is what I believe in, and we need to break out of that mold and break out of that, it's kind of, we build up this wall around us, and we don't see the truth from that. So we have to break down those barriers, right? Okay. So the ancient sages, they sought the Tao, right? Again, talk about the certification, right? So again, back then, the Buddha, okay, so like, Mahakasyapa is, the first patriarch after Buddha, right? So, how did he get certified? Basically, he realized through the flower sermon, right? So that he realized that we have this Buddha nature. It's not this conscious mind, not through the senses that I can see, that I can realize something. It's that there's something else, okay? There's this true nature, this Buddha, this essence, okay? This Bodhi mind, this Buddha mind, or Buddha nature that lets us realize, okay? It lets us do anything, okay? Everything, okay? So that's where Buddha, and so he says, right? I possess the true Dharma, the marvelous mind of Nirvana, the true form of the formless, the subtle Dharma gate not found in words but transmitted outside of the scriptures, okay? And this I entrust to Mahakasyapa. So so Buddha said it very clearly that it's not in the scriptures, not in the teachings. Okay, so that truth that he's transmitting to Mahakasyapa is something that happens from mind to mind, heart to heart. Okay, so at that moment, Mahakasyapa, because he understood what Buddha meant by holding a flower in front of his face, saying that he just broke into the broad smile. He didn't have to say anything either. But at that moment, his mind and the Buddha's mind were one. Okay, they were one. They were connected. They were one. Okay. And so that is really the truth. That is the Dao. Okay, so just the same. When we receive the Dao, we go through that ceremony. When the transmitter brings that flame and then touches you, opens up the first treasure, the portal, then that is when you are connected. You are one at that moment. Okay, with God, with the Dao. Okay, it's just that we, and afterwards though we forget about it. We don't realize that we were one. Okay, but in that moment we are one. And it's like, we open up a hole, okay, through that wall that we had around us. We open up that hole, and so we're connected now to God, all right, to our origins, Dao. All right. The same thing, with fifth patriarch, when he certified Huineng, who become the sixth patriarch, same thing, right? So, then Huineng, he becomes the sixth patriarch. When he heard, basically, that's when the fifth patriarch transmitted the Dao to him, and he was explaining the Diamond Sutra. And then so Huineng then said, "Wow, how amazing the self-nature is originally pure, right? How amazing the self-nature is unborn and undying. How amazing that the self-nature is inherently complete, right? How amazing that the self-nature neither moves nor stays. How amazing that all dharmas come from this self-nature." So basically, that self-nature, or that true nature, that Buddha nature, that essence is everywhere. It's all-encompassing. There's nothing beyond it. Okay, so everything is contained within it. See, even the reality that we see today, this physical reality, is all contained within that essence. Okay, so it's hard for us to grasp that, but ultimately, it is all one. It is one with everything.
Is one and one is
yeah.
So the last phrase means that all is one.
Yeah, comes from that one.
One is all. Sorry.
Yeah.
One is all.
So that's kind of like for us. I mean, it's hard to realize. But I mean, they at that level that with their wisdom and their cultivation, they're at that level that they can realize that. Okay.
Just FYI, the first four phrases, he's actually talking about the four nirvana virtues, right? You guys don't understand. The four nirvana virtues, isn't it? You guys know what the four nirvana virtues are, right? Right? It's in the Nirvana, Parinirvana Sutra. Permanence, what's that? Permanence, bliss, or joy. It's a joy, right? I, the true I, the Buddha nature I, that's what it is. And then the what? Come on.
Purity, yeah.
So the first one is the
purity.
One of the Nirvana virtue. The second one is permanence, eternity.
Yeah.
The third one is bliss. And then the fourth one is the true I.
Right.
See, that's the fourth. See, so he realized that. See, so that's proof. That's evident that he reached that level, nirvana. We can say. Then he understood. Oh, there is a true I that neither moves nor stays. In other words, it's unperturbed, undisturbed,
right.
Cannot be influenced,
right.
Non-conditioned. You can say it's non-conditioned. Right. So it's absolute.
Yeah.
The absolute I.
Right.
What's the absolute I? Certainly not my consciousness, because that's not the consciousness. Because your consciousness changes, constantly changes. See, so that's the four nirvana virtues. See, people in the six in the platform sutra, they don't say that, but that's what it is. So if you understand, that's why we have to study Buddha nature class. You understand. Oh, you make the connection that what he was saying, what Wayne was saying, is basically validating that the Buddha nature is this, or has these four nirvana virtues, which Buddha talked about 1,000 years ago, in the Parinirvana Sutra. Make sense?
Right.
See, so you guys understand a little bit more?
Yeah. So, but anyways, so back then the transmission of Dao is kind of like a certification of their level of realization, understanding, their enlightenment. Okay. So today, of course, again, it's times are different, and we're not enlightened. We can receive the Dao, but we have to work towards that. Okay. All right. So the Dao really must be experienced. Okay, Dao is beyond words again. We talked about that. Enlightenment is the awakening to and realization of that truth. Okay, so again, enlightenment and awakening, that's all within, right? That's not, yes, there might be a trigger from the outside, right? A lot of those masters from the past, right? They either hear something or whatever, experience something, and then they become, suddenly they're enlightened. They realize something.
Or they see something.
They realize it. Okay, so, but it's, again, through that personal, so it's not the same for everyone. And we can't say, you definitely, go through this. Yeah, this will happen before you, no, it's different. Everyone's going to be different, okay? So it's a personal, again, it depends on our level of cultivation too. Really, that's really our cultivation. So to receive the transmission Tao is to awaken to that Buddha within, or is to awaken that Buddha within. Okay, so again, to realize that we have that true nature, that true self that Hui Nan was talking about before. So that is it's everything. It's one with all. It's one with the Buddhas. It's one with God. It's one with Tao. It's one with everything. Okay, and also, it opens the path to enlightenment and nirvana. So for us, that's what it is. So, once we receive the Tao, you can say for us, because the timing is different, it's kind of like the first step, although for them it was kind of the last step, right, the certification. But for us, it's kind of the beginning step for us to come to realize. But we still need to learn. Unfortunately, we have to go through the learning process, and more importantly, the experience. Okay, the experience through that learning, through the practice, and the experience. The experience can really help us to strengthen our, faith, our confidence in ourselves and the Tao. Okay, so, but that really, how do we get that? I mean, it's basically through the effort that we put into it. So if we don't really put any effort into it, then we probably won't get those types of experiences that will help us, go along, progress further, okay, towards enlightenment. So it's very important that we put in the effort. We come to class, come to temple, we practice, we do things, perform merits, right? Cultivate, practice the precepts. All these things are helping us to get there, to clear our mind, to focus, right? Right? We need to be pure, right? Purify ourselves, to get rid of all those obstacles, all those attachments, the desires that kind of keep distracting us, okay? That keep pulling us in the wrong direction, or causing us to create more karma, which then becomes a further obstacle, right? That's what happens. And so a lot of the precepts are to prevent that, or to help, reduce that, so that it can be an easier path towards that realization, towards that enlightenment. Okay, that's really the purpose of the cultivation. All right, so again, now, even though today it's no longer like a certification, but we still need that. Okay, so it's like, so some people will say, well, I believe, I practice, but why do I need to receive the Tao? I mean, we still need that enlightening master, someone to open up that door for us. Okay, so we can't, it's possible to open the door. Okay, you can say, it's possible to open that door ourselves, so like Pratyeka Buddhas, right? Those who become enlightened by themselves, like even arhats, okay, they become enlightened, but they cannot attain Buddhahood.
Right.
Okay, so they cannot become one, in other words, one with the Tao, one with everything. Okay, they cannot return to that oneness without having some enlightened master to kind of open it up that door for them. Okay, so that's really the ultimate goal. Really, what Buddha is teaching, what everyone's teaching, right? You wanted the eternal life. The eternal life can only be had by a Buddha. Okay, so or the eternal life of bliss. Okay, so that's why we still need that. Yes, we can practice, we can believe, but then we haven't broken out of that cycle of karma and reincarnation. Okay, all right. Okay, I mentioned this earlier, right? Religion is built on faith that's mostly external. Again, believing in something external, that there's some divine intervention from outside that can help me, can save me, liberate me. But actually, the true faith is internal. So it's like Sixth Patriarch Huineng was saying, right? So we all have that divinity, that Buddha within. So we have to realize that. Once we can believe that, we can understand that, then it's really, everything is up to us. Everything is up to us. It's not dependent on anyone else. It depends on us. If we want to become enlightened, if we want to become Buddha, we can do it, right?
So that's the notion of free will.
Yeah.
So people think, oh, you Buddhists are all because you believe in karma, so
Right.
everything is fixed.
Fate.
That's not true. That's only half the equation.
Right.
It's really karma. To understand karma is really it's the interaction of the two. You know
Yeah.
that, right? It's based on previous causes, right? So you result in today's. That leads to today's result. But you also have a choice, right?
Yeah.
You also have a free choice. So it's not like you're a robot.
Right.
Everything's pre-programmed.
Yeah, just like, a lot of times, right, you invite someone to receive the Dao, and they said they're going to come, but then on that day, something happens, right? And they say, oh, no, I can't come, right? Well, it's not that they can't come. They chose not to come, okay, because of something. Yeah, but they were influenced. There was a condition that happened, and they were influenced by that, and that say, oh, no, because of this, I can't come. But ultimately, if some big accident happened and, they ended up in a hospital, of course they can't come. But usually it's not, maybe they fell ill or something happened, or they had to deal with something. So it's just where the priority is, really. But they made a choice. They made that choice, okay? So, of course, you can say whatever happened was due to karma, okay? And karma, there's some influence there. Sometimes it can influence.
Yeah, but then that's also based on the level of affinity
Yeah,
and also merit.
Right.
So yes, karma is going to influence you, but if your merit is not sufficient,
Right.
or your affinity is
You may not be able to overcome
strong,
that, yeah.
in other words, your root,
Right.
your foundation is not that sturdy, then you'll be overcome. Then you make a choice and say, okay, I'll postpone, I'll
Right.
do this.
Right.
But if you have good foundation, solid foundation, or sufficient merit, then usually, unless it's serious karmic, force, then you can generally overcome that.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
that based on that, then that becomes a question of matter of that, if
Yeah.
you really want to handle.
Yeah. If the balance is that if it balances out in your favor in terms of affinity and karma, then yeah, then it's the choice again. So we do have a free will that we can choose to do whatever we think is appropriate. Okay. So this faith. Okay. So Tao must be experienced, right? So faith. Ultimately, this faith, if we turn it internally, right? External faith it's almost, a lot of times it's blind faith, okay? Because you're relying on something external and you have no idea really if it's something that's true. You believe it.
There's no wisdom.
Yeah, there's no wisdom, and you don't experience it. Let's say you don't experience it, but then I believe it, then that's kind of a blind faith. Ultimately, faith and sincerity, true faith should have sincerity. Okay, true sincerity is really being true to yourself. It's your true, genuine self, your conscience. Okay, so ultimately, how do you get that? That's internal. Okay, that's not external. Okay, so sincerity where does that come from? That comes from inside and really should not depend on anything that's external, right? And so, so Confucius talks about that, right? The five constant virtues, it's in this core, it's the center of everything, right? So once we have that sincerity, that true sincerity, we can experience the reciprocity. Okay, so what I mean is that we can experience this Dao, okay, through that sincerity. If we're not sincere enough, a lot of times we may not, things can happen, that's true, but to really affect us, to really affect us inside, to really enhance or improve or increase our confidence and faith in the Tao, a lot of times, we have a personal experience. And it comes through that sincerity, and then we get that reciprocity. There's a kind of a response coming from, you can say, the Tao or nature, okay, when we do that. So, yeah, you hear stories of people who are just so sincere, and there is kind of response. A lot of people, they pray to God, but, those are unanswered prayers.
You can say response, or you can say connection.
Yeah.
You have to
right, there is that
connect
connection.
Because you break through, because you're so sincere, or you can say deep faith, sincere, that it breaks through the bounds of our desires, emotions, all that. You get it? So it just, boom,
right.
You're connected.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, in the Purity Stillness Classic, right, that it talks about there's getting that response, right? You have to be pure. Okay, so if one constantly expels the desires, right, the mind will naturally become still. If one constantly clears the mind, the essence will naturally become pure. Naturally, the six desires will not arise and 3 points will vanish. Okay, so constantly respond to things to that which is true and everlasting, constantly maintain. Okay, so we have to use that true self to, in this case, he's talking about that true self responding to the external. But again, it's the same thing. Once it's like I said, it's like a connection. Once you have that connection, you are one with it. Okay, so then you can have naturally this response. Okay, that happens. So we. Again, these experiences are personal. Everyone will have different experiences. If we are in a state of, you can say that purity or stillness, then we can experience things that are kind of beyond what our senses, the five skandhas, can, give us, almost like extrasensory powers, abilities, right? Things like that, right? So to have that awareness, right? That wisdom and awareness come about. Okay, so we all have that infinite, that it's already innate. We already have all that awareness and wisdom inside. That Buddha nature, again, that Buddha nature encompasses everything. So you can say it's all-knowing, etc. Okay, so we just have to let it, right? By getting rid of all these things, 6 desires, the 3 poisons, getting all that stuff, then getting rid of our attachments, then naturally it comes out. And it can guide us. Okay, so that essentially our Buddha nature then is guiding us. Okay, so there are times when I've kind of not consciously realized or know, but that like sometimes I forget to turn off the gas in the kitchen, right? And for some reason I'm led to the kitchen, where I smell the gas and I turn it off. Okay, so it's not that I smelled it from this room or wherever. It's just for some reason, I was guided over there to smell it, to realize that the gas was left on. So again, that is that Buddha nature. It's guiding us. Okay. So, but that can happen if we, as long as our mind is clear, is pure and still. If we're constantly thinking things, etc., having desires, emotions, all those things, that just blocks it. So it kind of blocks that signal. Okay. So we don't get it. So we have to. That's why in the practices, always usually. Whether it's meditation or whatever kind of practice to get rid of all these stray thoughts or, strong emotions, things like that, or desires and attachments. Okay. So then your Buddha nature then it's aware of everything. Okay. So then it can, that's a better guide for us in life than what our senses can tell us. Our senses are very limited, right? Okay. Okay, so why receive the Tao blessing, right? Ultimately, we want to transcend samsara, which what Buddha did, right? Transcend that life and death, the 4, sufferings in life, birth, death, old age, illness, and death. Transcend that constant cycle where we're creating karma and having to pay for the consequences of our actions. Okay, we can also benefit our ancestors. This only happens during this time, actually. In the past, it wasn't like that. Okay, it's just basically themselves. They achieve themselves. But today, because the timing, again, everything, the situation is different in this world, that now, because we're near the end of the cycle, that, God, you can say God's mercy and the Buddha's mercy, that they also, by us receiving the Tao and cultivating, if we can achieve, then that also brings our ancestors out of, liberates them too, ultimately. Okay. We can transform and elevate ourselves, again, pointing to the fact that we can change our fate. We are in control of our own destiny. That we can change, realize that everything is up to us. So that if we follow our Buddha nature, follow our conscience, then we can get rid of our bad habits. We can get rid of our bad temper. We can change our temperament, right? All those things. That's how we can improve ourselves, be more virtuous, be more kind, be more merciful, be more like a Buddha, okay? Then we can help transform and elevate other people, okay? So other sentient beings through our own, of course, we can try to talk to them about it, but usually it's through our own actions, our demeanor, our attitude, how we've changed ourselves. If people can see that, then that's a better guide to them than or anything that we can say. Okay. Of course, we can also avoid and dispel calamities and disasters. So that's one of the things that is special too. In religion, yeah, faith, but not necessarily. Again, it's up to us. So we have to build merits and virtues. Once we have those, then we can avoid these calamities and disasters or dispel them. Okay. So again, that's like the currency, the thing that we need to balance out those things. Okay, so that's why cultivation, the practice is very important, and ultimately to reach that eternal bliss of nirvana. Okay, but again, we have to cultivate, right? Learn, so that's why we have to come. If we don't understand a lot of stuff, and we have to come to the temple to learn, come to class, learn about. Really, ultimately, it's learning about the true meaning of life. Okay, what is life about? And so once we can understand that, all these things in life are really, it's all impermanent, subject to change, and it's not, because it's not eternal, that's okay. So I only pursue it in so much as is needed, right? For us to support ourselves, to survive. But then we also need to then emphasize the spiritual aspect or the more eternal aspect, okay, for us to transcend all this, right? We don't want to take another chance with another life in this world and not knowing what it's going to be like, right? We can kind of look at this life and say, have I done good deeds? Have I done bad deeds? Right? What will the next life be like? But a lot of people, they have the wrong view, saying that, I'm a good person, right? So my next life shouldn't be bad. But have we killed? Have we stolen? Right? We have. Eating meat, eating animals. It's killing them and stealing the babies from, the parents or, vice versa. It's the same thing. Okay, so we've committed sins if we aren't vegetarian or vegan.
What does that mean, stealing the babies?
Yeah, you stealing they have parents and children too, right? You're stealing them from the family. Okay, so it's the same thing. So killing, obviously, the killing and the stealing. That's all there. So we think that that's natural, but we're committing sins, we're creating karma, and we can't escape that. So that's going to come back and bite us, literally, bite us in a future life, perhaps.
Big bite.
They're going to take big chunks out of us. So that's basically it. So we want to understand, what really life is about. We have a purpose. It's not just to become famous, not just to become president, not just to become, wealthy. All these things, those are temporary only. And again, it's not lasting. You don't leave a lasting reputation. Only those who are like the Buddha, the saints, those sages, they've kind of given up on these things because they know what the truth is, what's more lasting, what's everlasting. And so that's really what we're here. We're not here to worship them. We're here to learn from them and learn their ways and follow their ways, so that because they have already found a way out of this cycle, okay? And so they're teaching us how to get out, and so we need to follow that way to get out ourselves, right? So if I had said anything wrong or not well, I ask the Buddhists for forgiveness and your corrections.